Hello, everybody. We're so excited that we have Kat with us from Matter Matters. She's going to talk to you about microplastics, and from what I hear, she's very passionate about it. So I'm going to turn it over to Kat.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Candace and Green Hope Project for putting this together and for having me on board. Let me start sharing my screen. And then I just want to make sure that you can see this.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So yeah, as Candace said, my name is Catherine. You can call me Kat for short. And I'd like to start by saying that I'm by no means a plastic or microplastics expert, but I will share with you today some of my own investigations as well as some research knowledge on the topic, as it's one that I'm very passionate about. I wear many hats on a day-to-day basis as a professor of architecture at Texas Tech and as a new mom. And each hat I wear drives my passion to continue learning and spreading awareness on the topic in order to help heal the planet for my son and future generations. So I've titled this presentation Omnipresent Plastic, Micro and Macro Plastics from Southwest Texas to Southeast Asia and everywhere in between. So you'll get to see a little bit of my journey through this presentation and how it got me to this point. So Matter Matters is a materials and architectural design lab I started just 2 months ago, although it's been in my head for 3+ years. So we just got to formalize it, and it's a design lab that addresses the urgency of the global crisis by innovating with waste and building with natural materials. The lab harvests raw goods from industrial, domestic, and landfill-bound waste streams, fostering a recycling ecosystem, scaling a range of micro and macro scales. The inherent qualities of these collected artifacts are celebrated and repurposed into new performative and conscious material objects for the future of architecture, design, and construction. This disruptive revolution is in response to a critical and urgent predicament of our planet's finite resources extracted by the developing modern world. Our mission as a team of designers, architects, activists, and scientists is to be agents of global change, to innovate, and to ultimately emerge collectively as a more sustainable human race, addressing social and ecological reform and rebalancing our relationship with the environment, our planet, and all who call it home. So I'll talk a little bit about a couple of projects that we're doing. Again, this is still in the works, but you feel free to visit our website throughout the coming weeks as we'll be uploading more content. But I did want to give a brief introduction and a little background of myself that will situate you along my journey before I start talking about plastics. So about myself, I completed my bachelor's of architecture at Pratt in Brooklyn, and then I attended Harvard University's Graduate School of Design for my master's, where, with the work that you see in front of you, I was focusing on material studies and alternative methods of making with machines. So worked a lot with robotics, worked a lot with making machines from scratch using Arduino programming, and having machines fabricate and perform these material investigations. That then led me to, upon graduation, it actually led me to Singapore with my partner. We moved there, and I worked as a researcher in Singapore at the local university, where I specialized in larger scale 3D printing. So now using recycled materials such as fly ash and silica and glass, which is what you see in the center, and using those as aggregate mixtures for 3D printing large scale structures. So there you see a little article from the Straits Times in Singapore, and these are some of the, one of the just many like prototypes that we did using a geopolymer mixture, and also using glass as this kind of aggregate, which also addresses, it was kind of like a sustainable alternative to sand, which is a finite resource that we're kind of now extracting for all of the concrete built work that's out there. So the alternative and the kind of mission behind this project was to kind of use recycled glass and crush it really small and to become that aggregate for the mixture. And living in Southeast Asia, that's kind of where my awareness of the plastic problem began. We frequently visited Bali, as it was only a 2.5-hour flight from Singapore. And this is what you see in front of you are just some beaches of Bali and the kind of state that they're in. And to this day, they're still kind of at this dire state. And this is also in Malaysia. Malaysia has become, which we also visited. And in fact, in 2019, I brought a group of Texas Tech students to Singapore, and then we took a weekend trip to Malaysia. But anyway, Malaysia has become also this new dumping ground for the world's plastic, because in 2018, China enacted the National Sword Policy, which banned the import of most plastics and other materials headed for that nation's recycling processors, which used to handle nearly half of the world's recyclable waste for the past quarter century. So this put a lot of strain now, that ban from China on local and municipal communities in tackling recycling, their recycling processes. So you can see some of these articles here and kind of highlighting that. And then here, I just wanted to put this here because it's a fact that the US generates more plastic trash than any other country. Plastic bags from Walmart in this image wait to be processed at a facility that's being converted from a derelict food processing plant into a recycling plant in Montezuma, Georgia. So this has this ban from China, and now it's seeping into Malaysia. It's that has put a lot of strain in our local waste management processes here in El Paso as well. So this is actually a study done by a group of researchers, and you can find this article on Waste Dive, and it highlights how recycling has changed in all 50 states. And El Paso was one of the states that was highlighted under the Texas umbrella. And so here it says that El Paso emerges as one of the most affected municipalities in Texas, with Friedman Recycling asking for a $40 per ton cost increase in a contract that technically runs through 2030. So these are just kind of things that I've picked up on myself as I'm gauging more knowledge on the topic and how really it's kind of begun to affect us. You've probably all seen images similar to this one. And I'm sorry I don't have the source for this image, but plastics have proven to be detrimental to our ocean and marine life, seeping into municipal water channels that then lead to streams, that then lead to rivers, and ultimately the ocean. From the micro scale, in this case, this is my own, and this is kind of where our research and inquisitive leads kind of bring us to this kind of result. So this is, these are my own analyses that I'm performing under microscopes. And so in this case, these are particles that were observed under the microscope of lint So extracted a little bit of a sample from the dryer and begun to observe like what it is that does go into our water streams. Obviously, lint is sort of the after the fact. There's water in the washer machine that all of the fibers kind of get released and then into the water stream. But the lint from a dryer is like another form of extraction of the fibers. So I was curious to see how much synthetic fibers we can actually see. And so you can see in these images the monofilaments are fibers that are made of a single piece, and you can see them very clearly in relationship to all the other fibers in under the microscope. So these are very clean, they're very precise, and they have like they're single body textures. And that was just kind of me observing and kind of posing the question, what actually is going into our water streams? And these are really, really small images and zoomed in images of a little piece of clusters of fibers that were extracted. But then that was the micro scale, and then now we're going to a slightly larger scale. I like to call it like the fragmented microparticle pieces, and also the smaller disposable pieces of everyday disposable plastic parts that we use. And yeah, these are seeping into our water streams. It's obvious. I think the image on the left is, again, I forgot the source here, but that's a very famous image. And then you could see that it's even being consumed. The little microplastic particles are being consumed by fish and other organisms, which we then eat. You know, we're consuming plastic as well through the ocean and marine life. And then these are some macro objects that are floating along the ocean. This is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is more than twice the size of Texas, for a reference of how big that floating pile of garbage is in the Pacific Ocean. It's constantly shifting, but these are just, this is one image that I was able to extract. And unfortunately, it's affecting wildlife, this plastics pollution in very detrimental ways. I'm sure you've seen this article as well. It just hurts my heart. But the oceans and ocean life is not the only thing that's getting affected. We are also being affected by plastic and consuming plastics on a day-to-day basis by the water that we drink, the methods in which we cook, like the surfaces of Teflon that we use, the plastic bottles that we consume. And so there's many studies that show that they are in our human organs. Yeah, so even here, it's in our rainwater. This is, I think, a study that was done, and they found that in Colorado, it was raining microplastics from the sky. And you can see here the microplastic fibers, which again are kind of these monofilament, perfectly intact fibers. And then, of course, the smaller pieces as well of these colorful plastics. It's in our soil, which we use to grow our food. It's also in, well, babies, young children are consuming plastics from a very young age as well. If you use plastic baby bottles, when heated, there's like a chemical release that's happening with the lining of the plastic. bottle, and when you heat it and when you shake it, it's releasing tiny bits of particles into the liquid. Also, other studies reveal that there's microplastics even in the placentas of unborn babies, which is, yes, a matter of great concern. These I took from a page that I follow on Instagram called Plastic Soup Foundation. I think maybe you all would really love to kind of follow them. But so I grabbed a bunch of their screenshots here, and just to kind of highlight all of the different hidden places that we also find microplastics. So in chewing gum, sea salt, cigarette butts, makeup, especially micro bead makeups. You have to make sure that you get makeup or face washes that don't have these kind of plastic microbeads in them. Wet wipes, which is also startling as a new mom. We've started, well, from the beginning, from the get-go, I knew about this, and so we've actually gone with biocompostable and plastic-free wipes, but the ones that are mostly sold commercially and in large retail stores are ones that contain plastic. So it's not something that is known or kind of advertised. And then also coffee cups. We all love our Starbucks, right? But the interior lining actually typically is lined with polyethylene, which can also, similar to the plastic bottles of babies, like that can also link into your drink. So again, better to just go with reusable coffee cups and that sort of, and of course, reusable water bottles to kind of prevent any of these toxic chemicals to enter into your bodies. And then I didn't put the studies here, but you can just kind of research on your own if you're interested in this more. Teflon is also is a very the name for it is it's got a huge name. It's polytetrafluoroethylene, PTFE. That's kind of the makeup of that material, and when cooked in very high heat, it releases chemicals into the food that you're cooking with. So the best way to kind of prevent this is by using ceramic or cast iron skillets, nothing that has this kind of Teflon nonstick material. There's a lot of new cookware now that's coming out that is ceramic based, nonstick and non-toxic. One of them is called Caraway, if you're curious. We've also just ordered our set, and we love it. And BPA is something that we also hear about very often. BPA is standing for bisphenol A, and that's also found in bottles and in anything sort of plastic that it's a type of plastic material. So that's why you see cans also, like food cans, BPA free. So there is this awareness of BPA, and some manufacturers don't really advertise that there's BPA. So you just have to be careful with the plastics that you're kind of consuming. So we see it everywhere, and now kind of tie it back locally. It's also in the air we breathe, and this is like a at-home sort of experiment that I did myself. Last month we had a dust storm on March 16th, and I put out these pieces of tape to kind of capture all the dust that was like hitting our windows and hitting our doors and all of that. I was curious to see if I could capture dust and put it under a microscope to see what we see and to see if there's any microplastics flying in the air. So these are some of the swatches that I took from that dust storm. And these were the results under the microscope. So you can see in that tiny little swatch on the left, that's just a tiny little sliver of all of these 4 different swatches that I took. And within that one little sliver, the conclusion is that yes, we are inhaling microplastics. So the middle image, you can see that there's like this perfect monofilament that's again intact. It curved into itself like this. It was blue. It was pristine. It wasn't like fissured, or there were no dents to it. It was like perfectly intact, that entire filament. Here's another filament that was kind of seen within all of the dust. And then here you can see, which was to my surprise, a very beautifully pink, Barbie pink, like little fragment of plastic within all of the dust and particles of that one little piece of tape. So, and I was able to zoom into it quite a lot. So 3 times actually. This was it in its like context. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what is that pink thing? And I kept zooming in further and further, and ultimately got me to this point, which again, I'm no scientist, but I've done enough research already to know what a microplastic look like and what to look for in researching and finding microplastics. So yeah, this was just really kind of shocking to know. And then again, locally, even in our neighborhood, and this is just within a single block radius. I think this was in like September, I took my son, Olivia knows because I was like shocked and told her all about this, but I took my son for a walk around the block, and I photographed every time I saw one of these disposable synthetic masks in our environment. So I snapped 10 images of 10 masks just thrown away and disposed of carelessly in our environment. And these are, again, synthetic, they're plastic. These disposable masks are not cloth masks. They're made of layers and layers of 3 different layers actually of these synthetic fibers that, again, now they are releasing themselves as they degrade tiny fragments of more fibers into the environment. So, and then lastly, this is the, lastly in the topic of like our local context of microplastics. So this is by the river here, the Rio Grande. We've held already 2 cleanups, and these are just images of plastics that we found along our way. And a very important thing to note here, specifically also because it pertains to our region, is that we have very harsh UV exposure year round. I mean, we are a sun city here, and there's sun 365 days out of the year, which is a great thing. I love it. I love that there's like a blue sky every day, but this also means that any plastic item that is exposed to harsh UV rays will eventually stiffen. There's like a chemical reaction that happens to the plastic where it actually releases all of its kind of flexible properties and becomes very, very stiff. So the images, basically these bottom 3 images, you can see that a plastic bottle has become flattened, but also extremely, extremely rigid. If I were to take this in my hand and crush it, it would just break into tiny little pieces. You can kind of understand that also here as you see the basically like the scars of the breakage that's happening here. And of course in this glove as well, which was extremely fragile to pick up, all of these tiny little pieces that you can kind of see around were just falling from it as we were picking this up. So there is kind of this UV exposure process that is causing the plastic to harden, quickly deteriorate, and then cause these smaller fragments to peel off, which are then considered microplastics. So now all of these little pieces are considered microplastics, and these are posing a huge threat to wildlife because little birdies, little wildlife come and try to consume these, thinking that they're food, and end up choking. So that's just horrifying. We had another cleanup yesterday, and I tried to kind of scoop up as much of the microplastics as I can. And I have a little video that I'll kind of pause and share with you. I think it's here. So this was a plastic bag. You can see me trying to collect the plastic bag, which again has been now fully deteriorated. And those are all the smaller pieces of the plastic bag that I'm trying to collect. They've just broken up into so many smaller pieces. And at the end, I just kind of took that whole batch and tried to put it in the bag. But it's really horrifying to know that there's just so many microplastics out there. And so we were also curious just to see how big of a problem this was here in El Paso, this plastic pollution. And so this is student work. I'm going to credit my colleague who's actually here, Olivia Ramos, and myself. We both led this studio. But what we encouraged our students to do was a mapping exercise, and they had to kind of go in teams to different zones within this kind of central and downtown district of El Paso. And they had to kind of map all of the trash that they saw. So, and I apologize for the image on the right to be so grainy, but what you see in pink are all of the clusters and areas of trash that they found. So again, they had to go block by block, photograph, and then mark on the map what it is that they found and what particular item they found. So if it was a water bottle, if it was a disposable mask, if it was a straw, a fork, they had to kind of place all of that. And it's not that clear in these images, but what you see in pink are actually outlines of different icon shapes. So there's like water bottles, and maybe I'll show you in the next image, but our intent here as an educator was to kind of shed light on this issue to our students. And again, like just planting the seed. They're undergraduate, this was fourth year architecture students. So, but just planting the seeds and kind of having them realize that there's like a larger kind of issue to address here. And so, so that they can continue being advocates and imparting knowledge on their family and friends. So this was an example of one of the taxonomies that they had to kind of collect. So they had to photograph their specific zone and itemize each of the different pieces of trash that they find, create a grid of where it would be found. So based a numeric grid value from 1 to 8, and then A to P. And then they had to kind of color code all of it, and then also let us know which grid it is that they found those items on. So again, it's kind of hard to tell, but everything that's pink is actually a particular thing, like an icon. So there's like a water bottle, there's masks, and we had them place particular icons for each of the topic or categories that they found. So again, this is our local area, and we wanted our students to kind of be in the know of this kind of larger issue. So I do want to impart or kind of continue on this session with a little bit of more positive note. As humans, we do have the ability to problem solve, and there are incredible people addressing the issue of plastic pollution. And I can speak to you as a designer that I'm optimistic for the future and hopeful that we do kind of get to a point where this is kind of controlled and obviously eliminated as well. So I'll take you back to Bali now. And in Bali, people are building with eco bricks, and this is an eco brick, and an eco brick is a plastic bottle that has been packed with plastic bags to provide like that density and that weight. So they use these as these reusable like building blocks. In Bali as well, there's this young group of activists that have been demanding that they ban plastic bags, and it all started by these two twin sisters. They're Indonesian, Balinese twin sisters, Melati and Isabel Wijjan. I might have messed that last name up, but they sort of created this group called Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and now they're all around the world. And they are young activists, they're teenagers. They graduated from a school in Bali called Green School Bali, which is, again, this like pushing environmentalism. And so they kind of created this group, and ultimately they succeeded. And in 2019, the governor of Bali announced that there's going to be a ban, a law banning single-use plastic. So now Bali is plastic free. So with persistence, with a great sense of community and urgency that we kind of push, you know, this is very possible. And I love seeing young people kind of leading this effort as well. This is also another kind of lab in Bali called Sustainism Lab. And what they're doing with the plastic waste is forming it. And well, these are kind of machines that they use. One is, I think one's an extruder. This one like filament comes out of, and this one is like a crusher. And this was like a rotor mold. But anyway, they are basically making these products for the hotel. Potato Head is a brand that has hotels, restaurants, and so they just opened a hotel in Bali, their second hotel, I think. It was actually designed by OMA, and all of the interior for like the bathroom pieces and some of the furniture as well is made with like recycled plastic. So this is some of the stuff that they do. There's also so many other great like makers and industrial designers and architects innovating with plastic waste. And so here's Smile Plastics. They take plastic yogurt containers, crush them up, and are creating these tiles for interior architectural applications. I don't know the source of this. They're two different bricks. I don't know the sources of them. But there are also people, or I didn't place them actually, but there are people also innovating with plastic bags, as plastic bags are actually not recyclable, or you can't put them in the recycling bin because they actually just clog up the machines. So bags are not recyclable. And so here's a person on the right innovating with plastic bags and seeing how they can maybe perhaps melt into a CMU block that could be then used for a building. And so, and then on the right, this was a similar kind of experiment using plastic, but melting, I think it was just all sorts of plastic, melting it with actually a solar a solar kind of mechanism. There's just so many innovators out there, and Gomi is another company that is turning plastic into these really beautiful speakers. And then Max Lamb, this is another product that is now in Potato Head, Bali. They kind of collaborated with Max Lamb, and so Max Lamb has made a couple of pieces of furniture for that new hotel in Bali, Indonesia. But all of what you see, all of these are flat pieces of plastic that have been kind of melted together and formed into this chair. And there's also, I think this is a Dutch architecture company as well, or maybe designers, Bureau SLA. They've also taken plastic waste, and this is actually interesting because now we're talking about the community engagement. Like the community had to dump their plastic waste, and these panels that you see on the right are, well, they were the first prototypes actually, I think, of what was finally kind of put together. But these are made out of the community's plastic waste and then turned into these panels that then acted as a facade treatment for this particular pavilion. And then I forgot from what year this was, but Los Angeles at some point, I'm not sure if this is still happening, but at some point Los Angeles did even start building roads from recycled plastic bottles. And so back to our students at Texas Tech, this is kind of an emphasis that we try to, with our students, push. So having them repurpose plastic shredded waste into architectural components as building materials. So encouraging in a way like building with waste. Here are some students that took these shredded containers of like shampoos and detergent, like laundry detergents, crushing them to this finite texture, and then casting with them. This student started making like a flexible tile out of that waste material. And then this is student work, Olivia and I as well. The student decided to kind of form a bunch of that into a dome shape plate, I guess, and then heat it. There was these group of students also created these flexible molds. And then this group of students used bubble wrap almost as a binder or as this kind of like thermal boundary between the plastics and between the plastic waste. So very, very creative, amazing, and super proud of the work that has been output by the students. And then on our end, what we're kind of trying to start to do as part of our research is to develop bioplastics made entirely from plants. So what you see in front of you is actually just two ingredients that are making up this sheet. So, and they're all plant-based. They could be biodegraded, and so you don't have that kind of like lasting impact on our environment that true plastics have. So this is still a work in progress, where we just kind of started getting this like really thin texture, but we're going to grow on this, and we're going to see how it can begin to be applied to larger scale building components for architectural applications. But But bioplastics, I do want to emphasize that it's not necessarily the solution. Bioplastics do not necessarily degrade in water, so it still poses a threat to our oceans and our water streams, unless there's like a water soluble aspect to it, which with polyvinyl, I think there's a way to make materials water soluble. But yeah, I do want to emphasize bioplastics are not necessarily like the 100% be all solution, but it's better than extracting, you know, this raw material from the earth, and then having it go through all of these processes methods in order to kind of become plastic as we know it today. So anyway, lastly, I want to possibly end with a couple of like prompts of like what it is that we can do. And I think it's just also to just be informed and to share knowledge. So a couple of Netflix documentaries that I've found really interesting in opening my eyes to this issue as well, or just continuing to grow my knowledge on it, is A Plastic Ocean. And this one's called Recycling Sham. It's part of a series called Broken, but it was extremely informative and to show you all of like the way that recycling is kind of, the word recycling is being mistreated, because only 9% of plastics ever made like have been are recyclable. So there's a huge percent of plastics that are not recyclable, especially the higher numbers, 7s, 6s. 1 and 2 are like the easiest ones to recycle. But anyway, I also want to share pages that I like, that I find really useful to learn from. So this is Plastic Soup Foundation. They do a lot of really great videos as well, that kind of, and they have experts and scientists on that they interview. And so this is a group that I really like to see what they have to post, and I learn from. And another one, well, this is, I want to share with you TerraCycle. If you don't know about them, they recycle everything, all of your old makeup containers, all of your pens, your they really recycle everything. They're based in New Jersey in the States, but there is like a global TerraCycle also. But yeah, go on their website, kind of see what they have. And we send our bamboo diapers through them, but they really recycle everything. So this is maybe a way to go if you collect a lot of like shampoo bottles. Wait until you have like 20 of them, then you could send it to them and they'll recycle it properly. So another thing that we can do is, in terms of our laundering practices, like we can put filters in our washing machines, such as this one by Planet Care. It's close to 150, maybe, or nearing $200, but look at all of the kind of microfibers and microplastics that you'll be like reducing from our waste stream. So this is a good alternative to worrying about synthetics in your clothing. It's not always possible to purchase everything 100% cotton or linen or flax, clothing. It's inevitable. Sometimes there's things that you purchase that are a makeup of like cotton and polyester. So this is a good alternative to kind of having a little bit of peace of mind that you know that you're eliminating microfibers from entering our waste streams. But another maybe not so costly alternative is these little washing bags, which are made with these micro, it's a microfilm, or yeah, anyway, it's a microfiber filter solution. Yeah, they're tiny little fibers that they're so tightly bound that there's no release of larger fibers kind of going through them. So this is a good alternative. You put your clothes in there, and then you wash without any worry. And then lastly, of course, we can always just refuse plastic bags. We can always ask for alternatives. If you're at the store taking something to go out of from a dining location, you can always ask, oh, do you have a plastic-free option? And sometimes they don't, but if more people ask, like eventually there'll be a demand, and eventually they'll kind of need to have a plastic-free alternative. Straws too. If you're at a store or at some place and they serve you a plastic cup, just to kind of instigate, you can always just ask, do you have a plastic-free option? And it'll eventually get brought to the manager's attention. So it's always good to ask if there's a plastic-free alternative. I love doing that at the stores. I love refusing plastic. Just yesterday I was at Target and they were going to put it in a plastic bag, and I was like, no, I'm going to just take it as is, like without any bag. I don't need a bag. So yeah, there's bringing reusable bags, reusable water bottle. And then you could even find plastic-free anything nowadays, like deodorant. There's containers now that are plastic-free. For the ladies, there's plastic-free mascara put into tiny little glass containers instead, with metal, with like a metal brush. Plastic-free diapers. If you put plastic-free in front of any item, like nowadays there's this is kind of a larger movement, so there are alternatives. So, and then lastly, I'd like to end with this quote. This is my last slide here, but I've just started reading this book, which maybe you'll all find kind of interesting, but it's called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth by Buckminster Fuller. He's an architect he lectured a lot, but a lot of his work was 60s, and he lived a long life. But one of his quotes that I got out of just the first couple of pages of this book is this one, and I shared it with my social media this week because I felt it, and I want to share it with you. So I'll read it to you. It says, "Something hit me very hard once, thinking about what one little man could do. Think of the Queen Elizabeth. The whole ship goes by, and then comes the rudder, and there's this tiny thing at the end of the rudder called a trim tab. It's a miniature rudder. Just moving the little trim tab builds a low pressure that pulls the rudder around. Takes almost no effort at all. So I said that the little individual can be a trim tab. Society thinks it's going right by you, that it's left you altogether. But if you're doing dynamic things mentally, the fact is that you can just put your foot out like that, and the whole big ship of state is going to go. So I said, call me trim tab." And I love that because it resonates with me a lot. Like if we could all just put ourselves out there and in this larger mission, we can be that trim tab. We can be the change. So yeah, that's all I have to share with you today. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Oh, thanks, Candace.
That was super cool. Wow. Okay. I don't even know where to begin. I'm gonna open it up to anybody who has questions or comments
Yeah, of course.
before I go in because I could talk with you all day.
I'm just looking at the chat too.
And
Oh, what material was used for the bioplastic? Um, that one, okay, yeah, it was vegetable glycerin and agar powder and water.
Cool. I've
Just
cooked with that, I think.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have it in my
A
kitchen. as
thickener,
well.
right? Yeah.
and then somebody says, so for fabrics is cotton number 1. Mandy asks.
Oh, that was Gary. Yeah, he's on my computer.
No, I didn't ask that. I responded.
Oh, you were.
Oh,
Oh, that was-
Regular cotton comes with heavy pesticide use and it's heavy water use. So if you can afford it, buy organic or buy less and then recycle your
Mhm.
gently used clothes. We just buy too much of everything.
Yeah.
so true.
You can actually take clothes too and like put them in the base of a keyhole garden, or, you know, they'll compost real slowly. So you can put them somewhere where it'll like
Wow.
eventually they'll break down. Cottons will. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
And-
Kat, it's Gary, and I have the students. I was hoping some would be on your presentation. I'm giving them extra credit to join these presentations.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so outside the south elevation of the Union Station, you go look over the wall and there's an old railroad track next to that nobody sees. And we ought to do a cleanup and I'll help you. I do this all the time.
Gary, I'd love that. Yes.
Yeah, but go stick your head over the wall and just look straight down and you'll see an old railroad track where we park.
Yes.
We should clean that up. So anyway.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd love to do that with you.
Well, let us know, and Green Hope will come too.
Oh, yay. Okay.
There'll be a party.
It'll be a
Somebody,
Anybody watching this on Facebook later.
I know, right? Somebody asked, I think it was Mandy, which fabric should we aim to be wearing?
Oh, well, okay, so
And I think Gary kind of touched on that a little bit.
I guess so, yeah, I mean, natural fibers as much as possible.
Right. Organic cotton.
Organic cotton, that's what I buy for my 9-month-old. And I wish I could find things for myself, 100% organic cotton all the time. It does get a little pricey. I don't know if you guys have a source that you use, but also, yeah, like linens or flax, hemp fabric also is
right.
There used to be a lady that made hemp clothes at Artavino's farmer's market. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That was fun.
You know what I really like, Kat, about your presentation is that it, like, no holds barred, presents the facts. I mean, everybody knows it is what it is, but at the same time, you were presenting like alternatives and solutions and hope. And, you know, because I think the moment that we feel hopeless is when we just give up. But I think that we can collectively and individually make a difference. So I really appreciate that you did that. And you gave people like resources where they could go check stuff out.
Definitely. I mean, and I could even maybe share with you too, Candace, more. I couldn't put all of them down, but I have a lot of sources that I like. Package Free Shop online is an online retail store that sells everything that's just sustainable, like no plastic whatsoever. And there's a couple of others, but yeah, it's just a matter of, I guess, searching and you'll find.
Yeah, I feel like I really want to talk with you later about the precious plastic project we're doing.
Yeah.
And then the earthships, and then we got a lot of talk. We have a lot to talk about.
I know, I'm excited.
Yes. Anybody else have questions or
We need
comments?
to go, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy and Gary. Yes.
See you.
Bye.
See you. Take care.
Yeah.
Mandy, did you want to ask her anything else?
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of good stuff. appreciate the resources and stuff at the end. I was on my phone adding them and stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I have a couple things that like I do, but it's hard to do everything because like you said, it's pricey, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like just little things here and there, I guess that's what helps, right?
Absolutely. And it'll take time too. Like my bathroom is not plastic free 100%, but it's, once something runs out, then I try to find the alternative that is plastic free. And so little by little you build your collection, and it happens gradually, but yeah.
Good job. Well,
Thank
Mandy,
you for joining, Mandy.
yeah, Mandy, thank you so much. And I hope you join us for some more workshops later.
Yes, thank you. This was awesome. Have a great day, ladies.
You too. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.